And I will just verify with the fam here that we are live. And
I got my sound off right away before I even gave you some echo there, Mike. I'm
fantastic. And looks like we're good. And Bear, we got to get you back streaming from the lab again. That was so cool. Well, I'm planning on hopefully coming out to the farm tomorrow to help with harvest and bring in both the boys. So maybe we can tinker a little bit again.
More the hands, the better, I'll tell you, because it's a little bit daunting right now, and then we had a little bit of a delay. I'll tell you what happened there. And then Mark Ivor is coming this morning to start construction that we poured the slab for 2 years ago, but starting construction on a little business center. So things are happening here.
So exciting. Okay, we have the great Beth Martens with us today. I'm going to hit record and fire up the podcast. Respect her time here. Here we go. And boom, we're back for another episode of Alfacast. I'm Mike Winter, and I'm here as always with the powerful and beautiful Dr. Bear Paul Lando here on the Smith River and the great state of Jefferson, where freedom still reigns supreme. We were just talking right before I hit record. We are in full harvest mode. Jiao Gulan is flourishing, and we are picking as fast as we can so we can get that stuff dried. And actually, Bear, I love it fresh right off the vine. I can't wait to get a big bag of the fresh Jiao Gulan because I love steeping that fresh like that. And I'm sure we'll have people listening saying, how can I get that? Well, start growing it. I know we had plans eventually, hopefully, to sell starts for that and have some education on our new private platform on how to do that yourself. But there is nothing like fresh Jiao Gulan steeped in the morning or in the afternoon or any time. It is one of my favorite things, also with some fresh mint. So I will be over there tomorrow.
And we're the only ones growing at large scale here outside of Thailand. I just saw a video the other day of a gentleman from Thailand who's saying that the Thailand Jiao Gulan is the bomb. Well, yeah, it also helps when you have teams of slave labor, and meanwhile we're out there picking it ourselves. But we have a bumper crop this year. It's doing good. We're a little bit delayed with our harvest, but yeah, also harvesting a lot of the vines and everything that don't make it into our teas because they're very rich in the active ingredients, and that will go into my lab. I'm going to be making concentrates and introducing some more lumen products with the Jiao Gulan concentrate at the base and all sorts of good stuff in the works here. And
that's amazing. And
that's what we do.
That's what we do. And every day is an adventure here, which is why I am so happy to be living here and be involved with Alfa Vedic. It truly was a great reminder going out to Miami and experiencing that ARIA Leadership Symposium conference. It was phenomenal. Thanks to everybody in the Alfa Vedic community that came and showed up from the East Coast. It was a pleasure meeting you and really integrating in that wonderful space in South Beach. However, man, I was happy to get home, I tell you. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. And then also, I just want to also give a shout out to George Wiseman and the AquaCure Brown's gas machine. I am loving it. My hair is getting thicker. I've been noticing it. I was talking to Andy Kaufman before the show, Bear, because we've been having some sharing notes because we're, all about having that full head of hair. And I was telling him about it, and in Andy's classical analytic mind, he's like, how do you know? What else have you been doing? And I was like, I haven't changed anything else. I've literally just been doing the Brown's gas. I've been doing it, the gas itself and drinking the water. So he said, we'll see when Bear's hair thickens up and gets some color. So but I'm loving it. And so you can, if you are intrigued by the AquaCure machine, which is back in the corner here, and Bear's been using it as well, you can get that with show notes below. Use the code Alfa Vedic to get a sizable discount on that. Highly recommend it. And we'll have George on the show in a couple weeks. Any other notes real quick before we invite Beth on, Bear?
Well, I love George because, you know, he's a physicist, but he's not an armchair physicist. He's one of these guys that actually is out inventing and doing things and making changes. And, you know, there's a great, we'll call it, you know, in the more old esoteric circles of spiritual teachings, they call it glamour, you know, when the spiritual community kind of gets into more just talk and glamour and spiritual bypass. And, you know, and I see the value of spreading information. And, you know, I do get invites from time to time to attend certain things, but, and it's not that I'm against it. It's just that, you know, like George here, we're like hands and boots on the ground. You know, we're growing things, we're making things, you know, we're constantly putting in elbow grease. And I think, you know, a lot of people that have been really in the informational flow, that's great. But now it's time to do things, not just sit around and talk. Get out, you know, away from your keyboard. Of course, here we are behind our keyboards, but you know, what we're also doing is launching our new membership site where you'll actually be able to see, you know, what we're doing on the ground and teaching people how to duplicate, because we need parallel systems right now, because it's coming down right now. You know, the final moves are being made. And so we don't have the luxury of talking anymore. So I guess my message today is a call to arms as far as it's time to get active, roll up your sleeves, get together with like-minded people, start doing things and stop talking about it. So that's my little thing. One last little thing, and Beth, thanks so much. And it's just always so great to see you, and always delightful to be with you. It's definitely old home week whenever I'm with you, either on your show. And folks, if anybody has not yet tuned into Beth's Hero's Journey, King Hero's Journey, it's just one of the best podcasts, I think, out there. And she's just tirelessly bringing in fantastic people, sharing information and actually doing things. You know, you're getting your hands in the dirt out there too. So and thank you for making time with us. The last thing I just wanted to say, go ahead. Sorry, and I'll make this quick. I spent the last 2 weeks more than just a little bit under the weather. And, you know, we had smoke in the atmosphere from forest fires. And then we had relentless spraying night and day of planes, and all up and down the West Coast. You know, we're way up in the Pacific Northwest, but all the way down, even in the Southern California, people were succumbing to this really horrible sickness. And so for the folks out there that still don't get germ theory versus bioterrain and everything, this is something that you have to wrap your mind around. Now, traditionally, people would get what we would call colds and flus, which aren't contagious, you know, illnesses from germs. They are just annual composting. In other words, just like things in the winter in the forest, things compost, you know, all the old dead matter needs to be discarded, eliminated. The body does the same thing. The microbes do their part. And you get symptoms from that. People traditionally say, oh, I caught a cold or I caught the flu, but it's just composting. But at the end of the composting, you feel better and you don't have to do it again for an entire year. And a lot of us have learned over the years as well that if you do your homework, then you don't even have to go through composting symptoms. And many of us, my wife and myself included, haven't been, you know, sick for, you know, decades. However, that has changed in the last couple of years, where there's these mysterious recurring symptoms. And I put my head together with a few other people that are very knowledgeable, Ivy League kind of people, you know, that have great backgrounds as practitioners as well. And we are convinced beyond any shadow of a doubt, by the nature of the symptoms, it is a neurological biotoxin that is being sprayed in the atmosphere. And that is, in fact, what we have had. So for the last 2 weeks, Mike, you had it for about 10 days. And, you know, you and I both have a lot of mutual friends that all succumb to it. And it was just horrible symptoms. I'm still kind of getting over it. Our last podcast last week, I, you know, almost wanted to bail. I didn't feel that good. So folks need to know that there's really, really, a need to take care of yourself these days. And for the folks out there that are taking horse dewormers and things because they think that they are getting, symptoms from the latest variant or some such thing, that is the worst thing you could possibly do. And you really have to stop being stupid. What you're doing there with that Mectin-Ivor stuff is you're denuding your gut. Your gut is ground zero for your health. And one of the most dangerous things is not only are you fooling with your ecology for long-term, very bad consequences, but you're also negating your gut's ability through the digestive process to create hydrogen. And hydrogen, we could talk about it alchemically as far as what it means on that level. But at the level of the body, that's where you get your hydrogen, the most abundant substance in the body, which brings us back to George Wiseman and his AquaCure machine. But the hydrogen is what regenerates your body. And when it's short, which it's short in everybody these days, deficient, I should say, and especially if you've been taking all this other thing and think you're protecting yourself and getting better somehow, you're shortchanging your hydrogen even more. So your body shuts down its ability to regenerate and just barely keeps its head above water, and you just succumb more and more and more to whatever they throw at us. So, we need to be smarter than that. I saw this character, Charlie Ward guy, on another broadcast, and he's bragging about how he puts that stuff in all his water supplies at home. And I'm like, you effing idiot. I mean, it's okay Charlie, if you want to do that, but don't tell people this nonsense. It's going to just make people sick. So
Charlie Ward also
my little message.
I was just going to say, Bear, Charlie Ward also said that Trump was going to come back. That one dude was the actual real king of England. He was on a roll for a while. Jassara, Nassara, Q. So guys, we gotta have some true
discernment.
Go to your heart, discernment. Thank you. And look through the weeds here, because there is a lot of bad information out there. But thank you, Bear, for that rant, because I've been saying that on our Telegram for going on 2 years now. So thank you.
And for folks that still don't believe in chemtrails and still believe that, the latest variant or whatever, you all need to be beaten senseless with a wet sock full of dog poo and just pull your head out, because you're really creating a drag for the rest of us. You're enabling the people that are trying to harm other people, and you need to stop it. You need to wise up real quick, because this is end game time. Beth Martens, let's give you a proper intro, and we're going to turn it over to you, Mike. Let's get this started.
Beautiful. I love the rant. I think it's extremely important for us to cover it, because we know the whole CV nonsense. CV-19 was just another way to obfuscate the reality that we've been poisoned for decades, and they've ramped it up with all the nanotech, and it's time to wise up. So I just want to give one more shout out. Alex Zek crushed it at this last Miami weekend. He did an amazing presentation on how viruses aren't real. He had a standing ovation. They tried to stick him down in the basement because it was too edgy, and he had a full crowd, and he delivered. And I will say this, Bear, you'll be proud of him. He's moving into the residents. He's moving into what is really causing illness in a way I think you'd be stoked. So definitely got to connect you guys on the phone and have a deep talk on that, because Alec is the man, and he's only 30 and he is crushing it with truth. So just wanted to give you props, my brother.
Sorry, one more comment. There's a lot of folks out there in that whole terrain germ theory debate. And I just have to say it, there aren't that many people that actually practice real old school bioterrain medicine. I did that for over 40 years. And when you do that, it's like being in the trades. If you're a contractor, a plumber, an electrician, you know what works. You can prove what works by what happens on the ground. And in the practice of biotrain medicine, that's why I always describe myself as a blue collar clinician. You know, you're in there with your hands and you see what works firsthand. It's not theory, it's not academics, it's not arguing with somebody over, you know, some test or data or anything. It's like you really get to see what works. So I would like to see, and of course, it's part of what we're going to do on our platform, is to get us some good old school information about biotrain medicine so that practitioners can start being real doctors again.
Beautiful. Love it. Love it all. Okay, this is a great start to which will be a very powerful cast today, because we have the great Beth Martens on. She gets all this on her podcast. She's had a lot of these people on to talk exactly about this. She's super hip to all these ideas. And if anybody's being triggered right now, I doubt anyone is, if they know us, about the whole viruses not being real thing. I'll drop some links in the show notes below to some of our other casts, and also with Alex's information. It's very sound science. And if you have any doubts after watching this, then maybe you need to take a class on classic trivium and logic. But today, special Alfacast friend, Beth Martens of the popular King Hero's Journey podcast is here for a full update on her life's mission to bring truth to light. Special Alfacast friend, Beth Martens, is a business coach, author, trainer, and founder of the House of Free Will in the private domain. She considers this her calling as a life or death thing. Quote, "This lifetime or next, you will have to fulfill on your sacred contract. I learned the hard way," end quote. Beth engages leaders, movement makers, entrepreneurs, and purveyors of the truth in amazing conversations on her podcast and her live streams. But her personal hero's journey is as remarkable as any. After a decade as a corporate VP in her family's firm, 8 trips to India, and a 3-year battle with cancer 20 years ago, she used archetypes to save her life. Quote, "I survived against the odds, thanks to awakening my archetypes and discovering where I was out of alignment with my own true nature, my own life's work, and my own sacred contract." The exercise of one's will has long been misunderstood and suppressed to the point that most no longer fathom this reservoir of available power to achieve anything they wish. Often confused with positive thinking, which is the mind or masculine aspect, will can rightfully be delegated to the feminine polarity with its origins in the astral plane of intuition and feeling. Beth, Dr. Lando, and myself will tackle this all-important topic and all of its practical implications to a world in urgent need of the right use of will. Visit Beth at bethmartens.com to do a free King Hero archetype quiz to learn where you are on the path of purpose. And you can find her book, Journey, a map of archetypes to find lost purpose in a sea of meaninglessness. And that's available on her website too at bethmartens.com. You can also apply to become a member in the House of Free Will Ministry at www.freewillministry.live. All of those links are in the show notes below. I have Beth's book. It's phenomenal. And I couldn't say there's anything more true right now. I think that one of the number one things we're dealing with, besides the poisons in the air, is the nihilism that has taken over the world, thanks to the neoliberal agenda and all the globalism and all that nonsense of secularism. So that being said, take it away, Bear.
Okay. Beth, again, so happy to have you here. This is going to be a lot of fun. You know, in my write-up, I did kind of key in on that will element there, because it is so important with what we face as a people right now. It's just somehow mobilizing that will force. And I thought it would be an interesting discussion in light of your House of Free Will and some of your fine work out there, just to see what your take is, you know, as far as what will force means to you. And I did borrow that term from a book called The Right Use of Will that I read a long time ago in the 80s. It was a great book back then. And so I did plagiarize that and use it for the title of our newsletter. But, you know, let's maybe just catch up and tell us what you've been up to, which is, I know, a lot. And then we'll just follow your lead here. So always, again, delightful to be with you, Beth. Thank you.
Thank you guys for having me. It's a total honor and joy. I get to be with my friends. It's so good. There's a lot of leisure time that's gone by the wayside. And yeah, it's been go time since March 2020. There, I got that rocket fuel from behind me, and I can't stop myself. I was double doing two things at the same time, which is fairly common. Picking up some food from a food group and extremely connected locally with food people and milk people and vegetable people and the farmers and all of that kind of thing. It's added a lot of duties, driving off into the wilds, and you don't know where the pickup is that day because has to change every day because it's a little on the QT. And I was on a meeting. I had my Zoom on. We were talking about the private domain with Jacqueline Milne, and then I'm picking up my groceries, and she's going, well, she was irritated with me because, well, you don't have to. You just have to stop it. You just have to stop it. Like I was needing some, someone to intervene or something. And I'm just like, no, dude, you don't get it. I mean, she gets a lot of it, but this is, I don't know. It is time to go. And the trick is to go from a place of, rather than being driven by fear, being driven by love, or rather than being driven by death, be driven by life. And this is a very important distinction that I have luckily made 20 years ago. So I had some time to get a bit of ahead of the curve. I like doing this now because it's a Fibonacci. It's like exactly the Fibonacci wave, how things work. So that's fortunate. I think you guys are on the same path. That early life events taught you that everything was not as it appeared. I'm pretty late to waking up, and I just got accused of being a baby truther. And two things, I thought this was hilarious. Not too many people know this yet. I had Max Egan on maybe 5 weeks ago to my podcast, and it was all cool. I thought maybe I'd get censored, but it was staying up and really good feedback. And I love Max. He's amazing. And then I woke up the next one of the last days, and I'd been given a strike on YouTube. They took the video down for medical misinformation, right? Oh, I'm like, okay, here we go. And, my YouTube might have just hit that point where I'm more on the radar than I had been, living on my laurels. And so I go looking for Odyssey because the YouTube downloads to Odyssey, and I couldn't find it there either. I don't know if they can do that it's hinged to the YouTube, that if it disappears on one, it disappears on the other. So then I went looking, and I actually found so many other versions of it. Many people had uploaded it somewhere on Odyssey, including Max. So I went to his version of it, and there's a long string of comments. So I thought, oh, this will be fun. I'll read some comments and hear all this good feedback that I'm used to getting. And there were trolls in there big time. So they're saying that I'm controlled op, and I'm a baby truther, and get this one, the kicker, I'm a guy. Right? It is so funny.
That is the conspiracy world eating itself.
Yes.
And I think that's the greatest psyop right now that we see, is everything is a psyop, rolled into a conspiracy. We see it all the time. It's like this feeds right back into what Bear was saying at the beginning. Get out of your mom's basement, get off the keyboard, and go start doing something. Sorry.
Exactly. So yeah, for a minute I thought, oh, maybe I'll go respond. And luckily there were a few people defending me in there and talking about my Adam's apple and stuff. And but I just, it's a sort of cut bait. That's the beauty of the times that we're in, because it calls for action. And so the tendency to get caught up in the small things, the small disputes and conflicts, and there's lots of personality disorders coming to the surface right now, mine included. And there's lots of chances for those kind of conflicts. But and this for sure happened to me when I was sick with cancer, that all the little stuff fell away, all the little grievances, all the little complaints, all the irritations, all of that kind of stuff. And that's a blessing. Same thing happened when I had my baby, and I'm sure you're aware that life turns into, it's all focused on keeping this little one alive. And now I'm the same with my ministry. I have a sprout of a ministry just started. I didn't even expect, I thought I would be starting right now, but events happened over the course of the summer, and it was pushing up and out of me, or it was saying, push, push, it's time to push. That reflex that comes out, and it's like, okay, all right, I'm hearing, I'm listening, and I'm just going to go out. And actually right now, I'm so glad that I did that and I followed those urges, and I'm learning to follow them, very consistently, because if I was if I was just starting right now, I probably would be incredibly stressed out. And, having tried to get everything perfect, and you cannot learn or you cannot get anything right by thinking about it. That's never in a million years going to happen. You're like a rat in a trap. It goes in circles until you start to get into reality. And I'm going to go Fibonacci again, and you extend out of the comfort zone where you've been before to do something new, to take hard action, the elbow grease that you're talking about. And then you start to you start to get reflections, you start to get feedback, you learn what actually works in reality compared to what was just an idea. Well, it should work in my mind, kind of thing. And yeah, there's nothing to replace the real creation, the real manifestation, the real testing of yourself. What can I do? What am I capable of, to challenge all of those internal beliefs that add up to some kind of I can't. And even the I cans. So this, I'm kind of going all over the map here to start out, but maybe we can just draw from all of this that, my specialty is programming. I know many people are looking into that, and everybody's aware that we are programmed. You can see the signs and the symptoms of it everywhere, that people are doing things that make absolutely no logical sense, like you were alluding to, Mike, and is outright harming themselves. I even have like a very dear friend and colleague who just took the Mectiniver because she got sick, and it's like, no, I don't, and we can all be humbled. Illness is one of those things that I'm sure, there are moments in everybody's illness where you're like, oh, wow, it's really what they said, or it's really, there's some boogeyman out there, because you're vulnerable and you're down. And that's the hardest time to have any kind of sense or logic, or tap in with, a greater thing other than surviving. But to decode and deprogram is my mission. This is not only, of course, for myself. I have to do it for myself in order to have any credibility or help others do it. But this is something that I feel at the pinnacle, at the top of what it is that will be a resource to us in all of the hard moments that are to come, and all of the beautiful moments that are to come too, because that's what I notice, is that, when you extend yourself, you risk the hero's journey, you hear God calling you, say, like, okay, that sounds scary. I might die doing that. It might be impossible. Whether I'm suffering with an I can't, kind of a low energy, which is much less common in the truth community, or you're suffering with an I can, which most people wouldn't see as suffering. It's another end of the same scale of energy lost that can have its place and has a space in nature. But to bust beyond that to the freedom, so that you're the free will. And I definitely want to go deep into this and the different kinds of meanings that people give that. What is freedom? What is free will? But once you tap it, then you become unstoppable. You become uncontrollable. And this is the big thing that I have a mission about. And there's many, many things that fit in with that. So I don't know if that's, you and I, we had a previous interview here on the channel where I talked about all my story of surviving cancer 20 years ago and facing death, did that, it's all over. But this is the time to do that with a vengeance, to look and see, okay, what are the true motives? When I look deep within at the level of the codes and the programming and the patterns, I am a self-elected pattern hunter, because that's exactly what can get you ahead of the curve, can get you preparing for what's to come. just small things like preparing the land for next year's garden, if I get to be in a city or not. Everything is kind of up in the air. But now I've really put the elbow grease into a small piece of land that had incredible I feel sorry for you guys with big gardens, because I know what that harvest is like. You're like, what am I gonna, never mind getting it off the plants, but storing it or saving it, fresh food is just like whoosh, a lot of things in the compost too. But the just being ahead of the curve is such a blessing. And you do that by getting out of your comfort zone, getting out into that place where you're going to have to, your fears are going to come up and you're going to have to contend with them. You're going to have to not make peace with them. I really don't talk like that, but you're going to have to decode them and see what are the sources of these things, what is the true nature of it? What are the signature vibrations that are likely familiar throughout a lifetime? Every time you reach a certain place in your life where you're challenged to the core, and what comes up, and do you retreat and go away from that, or do you go into it and find your actual real freedom that we've been given? So maybe I'll stop there and let you guys jump in if there's any threads.
That's a fantastic start. And I think the realization that many of us are coming to, and like the episode that you had in your life with the so-called diagnosis, and just on a very minor scale where I was under the weather for the last couple of weeks, it interrupts that programming. And when your body is feeling vulnerable, not at its best, it puts you in an altered state where I think it's a fantastic opportunity to reevaluate your life and what you're doing and where you've been putting your attention. And, as you know, Beth, on our show, we talk a lot about just the physics behind thought bubbles and how it's the first stage of creation. And I really like to do that because it really is simple to understand that we are the only creative force in our own particular world at our coordinate of consciousness and universal consciousness. That's what we're commissioned to do. We're all individualizations. And if anything happens, whether it's something in our body, in our finances, or as a collective in a country that we inhabit, it is all of our own doing. And it's, we tend, I think, to overthink things and to make things complicated or mysterious or new agey or mystical somehow. But the simple fact of the matter is thoughts have consequences. Those thoughts then will redirect down into the emotional plane, and then that will create our reality. So it's as simple as not giving our life to the things we don't want. And it's very seductive when we have the creature class that is out there doing all these unspeakable things out there, to not give that our attention. But it's the last thing we need to do, because they do not have that creativity. They do not have that ability to tap into universal life, the creator, whatever you want to call it. So they are using energy, our own energy, as a weapon against ourselves. And we have to stop doing that. Now, that gets maybe a little bit into what really constitutes will, and that's why, I talked about, one side is the male, then the female, and the female perhaps being that will force. We could discuss more about that. But if you could maybe go into the house of free will, your creation, and tell us what that's all about and what your whole intention behind that is.
Yes, thank you. I never, except when I was 17, had a thought of creating a ministry. I really didn't. And, I've done, I think my last count is 217 interviews in 2 years, looking for solutions, interviewing people, not to talk about the problems, because there was plenty of that. If you needed to know what the problems were, you could easily find it. So one after the other, looking, okay, what can we do in law? What can we do about our health? What can we do about our, internal state that gives birth to all of our experiences, and use our will for good? And so I was able to come to some conclusions, which is a miracle, because for a long time, day after day after day, month after month, I would go to bed with a question mark on my head. I would wake up with that question mark on my head. And that's, go down a little bit of a rabbit hole, and then you hit the roadblock of some kind, and, find out things are half true, or actually being weaponized in some way against us. And then all of a sudden I started to wake up, and definitely with the help of Jacqueline Milne, who I always shout out to these days. I'm sure you know her name by now if you've been listening to me, who was also on the same track for many years. She's been she's a personality cult survivor of the Jehovah's Witness. She calls that a personality cult, dangerous one. And so it taught her, it sent her on this sequence of extricating herself from slavery, a kind of slavery in that context, being actually excommunicated, kicked out, unchosen. And so she was early on the path. I was early on the path with the pattern interrupt. I love what you said about that bear. When you get sick, it really is a reset button you're giving yourself. Okay, do not pass go, lay down, contemplate a lot, see what's in there. What are the roots of all of this? And it does stop things. So we had been preparing for all that time, kind of in parallel paths. And we both discovered a lot of patterns that exist in nature. And for me, I was able to see them, of course, outside and inside, because if it's not true inside, it's not true outside, and vice versa. As she was working on it through the Bible, she was studying that. And that was something that, for the last 20 years, I've been much more New Age. And I've been to India, like you said, 8 times. And did that whole, guru kind of thing, but got disillusioned by the guru and didn't follow the guru. So when I'm doing these interviews, I was actually looking for a guru at the outset. I was looking for someone to lead us and who's the right one to follow, but very quickly getting disillusioned and realizing that, everybody has a piece of the puzzle. And this is the main thing about a private assembly. Say, compared to just you can call yourself a community or even a membership site or whatever it is, where people click a button and they go and maybe they, take part in your Patreon or something that's quote unquote private. But when it came down to it and the search for solutions started to reveal the difference between the public and private domain and the great extent to which the law world, the alternative law world, whatever you want to call it, is obscuring the private. So it's not that they don't teach about it. That's actually one of the fundamental, principles that you get inside that world, of which there are no, real resources. It's just podcasts and articles and stuff like that. And so I was aware of it, but I shelved it because it was something that didn't hold, not that it didn't hold significance, that it was said to hold a different significance than the real one. Some overlap. There's always overlap. When you're sifting through the truth, you're gonna find a certain amount that is real. It should be about 80% in order to hold any good person's attention. And then you've got some 20% that is going to go sideways, whether that's intentional or not intentional or whatever it is. And we've all got a piece of the puzzle. If you go back in my history, you're going to find me saying things that I won't resonate with anymore. And I never apologize. I just keep moving forward with that. So always catch my most current stuff if you can to see where I'm really at. But so, the study of the private and then this straw man thing and all those complications that came in, but I was able to really sift through and come to this conclusion that, and the awareness of the actual private domain that is like us being fish in water. And I know you guys are so familiar, so I'm not, of course, teaching you anything, but we have been divorced from this systematically. And a little bit at a time, all of the functions of life that used to be private have now been taken into the public. And so we really don't even get the private, other than my earliest days of seeing everything public and just knowing intuitively, maybe, in that feminine side, that it's that the public is not real. It's inanimate. It has no life. It is not being used for the people as much as it has potential for that. I would always, as a child, go like, here's a big problem, and why don't we just fix it? Why don't we just do something different tomorrow? I couldn't understand why that, from that child's perspective, we couldn't just turn the ship around. And then coming all this distance and realizing, that the public is, it is lifeless. It only has the life that we give it. And there are parallels. So one of the fun things, I'm sorry, I'm talking in circles. I'll finish one point. So, as a 17-year-old, I was already looking for solutions. I had been a runaway for years. I was a rebel without a cause. I was fighting the system. And I had a boyfriend with a mohawk, and but we were still very interested in the truth, and still, railing against the machine. Maybe not in any effective way, just starting. But at that point, I knew I was going to create a church of some kind. So I expressed this to my boyfriend with the mohawk, and he laughed at me and mocked me. So I shelved that. I just put it away. I decided that, okay, that's not cool, apparently, and we won't go there. And here I am this many years later. So learning about the private domain, learning about private association. I was actually speaking with Robert Michael the other day, and he doesn't want to use the word PMA anymore, but that's the route that I've taken. It essentially is an unincorporated, unregistered association that the public has obscured from us and wanted, it's sent people down the road of charities that are in fact incorporated and registered, even though they're not for profit, but they're still very much part of the public system. And people have forgotten that they can operate in the private. And here, with all of the events since 2020, they have come into our private lives. They have recommended what to do with our bodies, with our faces, where to put our feet, even what to do in the home. People that are coming through the Canadian border. I did that myself. I blew the border in 2020 to go to New York and see a bunch of great people. It was actually no problem to get out, as freaky as that was. It was the problem to get in. And that's still the case to this day. And so, the border guard is asking me all kinds of way too personal questions about my home, about my family life. He was about to tell me that I couldn't see my son because my son lives primarily with his dad, and that I would. And I looked at him, and the fireball, must have shot some fireballs out of my eyes, and he stopped himself because he could see that there was going to be some kind of attack energetically there anyway. But and it was just. Then I get home and I get a call from the quarantine officer. And she's asking me all kinds of personal questions that a few I answered. I shouldn't have, knowing what I know now. But she asked me, where's your garbage when you take it out? Where is it? And I'm like, outside. I'd say outside like this. What are you asking that for? And she goes, oh, well, for 2 weeks, you can't take your garbage out. And I just said, that's stupid. And she's like, yeah, you're right. She actually had to admit that, okay, we're just going to pretend I didn't say that. And, it's just an example of the extent to which they are bullying their way into the privacy of living men and women that normally, it's not allowed. It's just not allowed. And there's lots of evidence for this and legislation and protection, right? Our Canadian Bill of Rights, it protects the rights of the individual, the right to assemble, the right to speak, the right to have private family matters. And so, all of this just awakening to being this fish in water, looking desperately for something that, we're actually surrounded by it. It's everywhere. The private is everywhere. The vast majority of the world operates from the private. We just haven't distinguished it. Right? When I make an arrangement with my son to get him a BB gun. He's really into guns these days. And then he works for me a little bit to teach him something that he doesn't just get everything easily, which I'm kind of guilty of spoiling him in that way. And, it's a private arrangement and no one can say anything about it. It's as simple as that. And no one would really think to come and try to interfere with that arrangement. But we don't realize that all of life can be, or most of life can be, that simple. And this is a very beautiful point, that civilization should have fallen already by all the signs, by everything that's been going on, by all the economic pressures, especially. Like, how long has that system been crashing? And the artificial prop ups and the printing of money and all that kind of thing. We should have crashed. Why did we not crash is because of the private domain. This is an invisible leg of the stool that is being held up, the three-legged stool. Like, I unfortunately can't even trace that exact. I think that's Alan Savory in the regenerative agriculture. I might be mixing and matching metaphors. Anyway, it's a serious prop that holds us up. And there's some example from the, I believe it's the Dhaka Gardens in Russia, when they were facing famine. And then people took it upon themselves to go and grow food and bring it to the people in the cities. And they were they still to this day are operating, and they are not going to suffer nearly as bad as other people in other parts that didn't have that foreshadowing, because they took it into their own hands and operated in the private without asking permission, without apology, without needing anyone but God to ordain or to condone the activity of supporting life. Right? This was a big awakening to me, that we have the fundamental right to take care of our needs. Right? That even that would come into question is such a head shaker. There's so many layers of programming to say that, you can't do this and you can't do that. And every time you get a revelation of some kind, you're always asking, well, okay, well, what are the rules? What are the legislations? Am I going to need a license? Am I going to need to register this thing? And you guys, I probably going to have to change my bio, because you've got the business coach up front there, and I've really done a lot of evolution in that respect. So the PMA is not. I think it will be actually very attractive to entrepreneurs. First of all, because it's a big investment opportunity, but it is shifting me out of a business mentality. As you said, I was born and raised in the business world, and I was very familiar with that. A lot of things I didn't like about it. That's why I nearly killed myself to get out of it. Certainly that corporate side of things. But the nature of exchange and how that can take place in the private compared to the public, where you are you're making agreements, you're contracting with individuals, you are being responsible for yourself, rather than thinking, okay, who do I fall back on when this goes sideways? Whether it's my project or maybe something I purchased from somebody else or a service. And but no, this is going in and saying, actually, I'm 100% responsible. And this is something I've always done when people work with me in whatever, whether it was business coaching or in deprogramming work or in training to become a coach. I always have an agreement that they sign, that they are 100% responsible for any results they get, period. With the caveat that I show up and fulfill on the things that I said. And so I've had the great luxury of working with people who are much more self-responsible. And if they demonstrate qualities of being, in the lower side of the victim energy or something like that, then I know it's not a fit. I know I can't really help them, and it won't be an efficient use of my time. I won't make them feel good. I'm going to end up heavy on them to raise and heal and get to a place of self-responsibility. So now, interesting. Just stop me if I'm talking in circles here. I'm sorry if I am wanting to say too many things at one time. But with entrepreneurs, a new thought, and I'm just having it with respect to the archetype side of things. It's actually still a very perfect fit for what we're doing. You guys are doing the same thing we're doing it. You're breaking ground. You're going where not a lot of people of any kind these days are going. And it's a little bit off the plank because we don't know. Nobody's guaranteeing us. that there's a, this is a system, this is everything that we, oh yeah, it's all packaged up for you, and you just have to do it, and it's going to work, and you're going to survive and be happy and healthy. Like there's just,
I would argue the only way forward is by being an entrepreneur, because the only way forward is through, determining your will through a decentralized, localized actualization of who you are. And as a business person, corporations are, this dream that you're going to get this job that's going to take care of you and you're going to work for 40 years and have a pension and all that. That's dead. That's done. The new model is you self-actualizing your business opportunities through your entrepreneurial pursuits. Bear and I that's what we do. We own our own businesses. I have for 20 years. So I just wanted to say that we're right in line with you on that. And if people are still concerned about towing the line for their job, because during the whole Corona stuff, when you were like, oh no, I'm going to lose my job, I'm going to fight against them, I'm going to, send them notices and all this, leave and become your own thing, right? So it's that simple, and that's what we need. And that you mentioned the Dashaks or whatever, I always say it wrong in Russia.
Dhaka.
Yeah, the Dhaka. I think they are still the number one producer of actual food in Russia. So they're a great representation of where we're going towards the decentralization, right? Of people self-actualizing what they need, their life's purpose through business and through entrepreneurial pursuit. Just wanted to say that. Thank you so much for saying that, Beth.
My pleasure. I knew it a long time ago that we were all going to face this moment where it would be, go against your own integrity, morals, beliefs, harm yourself, or find your sacred purpose and bring value to your people.
Well, and I'll say this, the number one principles do no harm, right? The non-aggression principle is what drives freedom, right? So every religion has the golden rule. I mean, so if you're doing harm to yourself, man, you're really up against it. But everything should be driven by the non-aggressive principle. That is where freedom comes from. That and the right to property, right? To personal property, whether that be just stewarding the land of the realm that you're in, or that that's what we're really doing here. But those are the two principles for me. That is freedom: the right to property and the do no harm or non-aggression principle. And so if you're doing harm in any way, you're not asserting your will in the proper way. You are acting like a child. So I'll just throw that out there too.
Just a quick comment. Freedom is not a license. Freedom means that you are doing things that will benefit all of life everywhere. That's what freedom is. And the more you give, this is just pure physics, the more you get. The more freedom you extend, the more freedom you have for yourself. So, freedom has been, I think, bastardized itself as far as our understanding of what it really is. And our Alfa Vedic mission statement in our private, I don't call it a PMA or anything. We just have a private member, sort of affair. We are a 7-generational spiritual based group, in that in everything we do, we have to demonstrate that it will benefit 7 generations down the road.
Wow.
Well,
that's amazing.
Where does the word ministry come from? That is literally the act of serving, right? To minister. So that's great that you're starting in ministry, because that is your core foundation of what your life's purpose is. And that same with Bear and I and Alfa Vedic is to serve, because when you're serving, you're giving. And as Bear said, that's how the universe works. That's how nature works. It's a give and give more system. So that's beautiful. I'd love to dive more into your ministry and how it's set up and where you're taking that, Beth.
For sure. I want to talk about that. I'd like to just respond also about the service, because that is the key. It's very easy to go through life thinking that you just want to, you're going to solve your own problems, and you're just driven to not suffer anymore, get what you want, get what you need, get what you think you're supposed to have. And then those pattern interrupts when life stops you and normal life can't go on. And then you're called to your hero's journey. Yes, of course, you must solve out your own problems. You must get to a place where you're not always behind the 8 ball and troubleshooting and in chaos and all that kind of thing. But the purpose of doing that isn't just to satisfy yourself and be happy and comfortable. Like, that's a big lie. We're here to be happy. No, we're here to turn around and give of our gifts to bring the solutions that we found for ourselves to other people, so that you can exponentially help grow the greater well-being of the people in your life. And not all people. There was a time when I would talk about humanity and the world and all that kind of stuff. Now it's much more localized, much more in a place where you can, one of the permissions that you realize you don't have to ask anymore is that, can I be with people that I love? Can I be with people that love me? What the heck, right? Why would I always be around? Because all my life I was around people that didn't like me. They were uncomfortable around me, or they didn't want to hear what I had to say. They weren't interested in my thoughts and that kind of, and I just got used to it. Like I'm a misfit or whatever. I don't fit in. And this is a total flip. So it's so fun for me actually now to have that somebody cannot click a button and come and join my world. They need to apply and answer some questions that I tried to make not too intense off the top. I'm also not wanting to spook anyone, and I don't need to know your underwear size or anything like that. But I want to see and feel into you. I want to hear your intentions. I want to see what energy you're coming from. Are you out of fear wanting to join people and be part of an assembly, or do you have something to offer? Are you bringing something to the table, whether skills or support or whatever it is? We all have something to give. Now, you might be very confronted by that you haven't cultivated your gifts. We're all given them. We're all hardwired and coded with certain ways to be in the world, which is really beautiful. I love reading that on people. And but if you don't do any work with that, if you never roll up your sleeves, if you never challenge yourself or go into the unknown of like, I don't know how to do this, but I'm going to figure something out, I'm going to work on it, then that will be a confronting moment. And I hope you're not at that moment in your life, but there's no way through it. So if you are, it's time to cultivate and get some skills. And I do help with that. I've started training coaches thanks to the pandemic. I thought, okay, this is the time. I want there to be more than one of me, not to put myself on such a pedestal, but this work works when people do it and they're brave enough to do it. So I think there are 40 coaches now that I have trained in the last 2 years. So that's really fun. They're at different levels of their own practice. Some of them are out there actually helping people and working in a coaching practice in that more entrepreneurial way. Others are doing it more in community and just helping to support each other. It's all fine. I don't have any sense of ownership about what they do with it. But so that hero's journey, if you turn around and you help people and you are of service, like you said, Mike, this is the primary function of a ministry. And so say in the classic entrepreneurial, more business side, if you got a big spectrum from the public to the private way of operating and giving your gifts and being in service, is that on the one extreme, on the entrepreneurial side, you're just all out for yourself. And, the bottom line, you're just building your bank account and everything comes to you. And one of my mentors that I didn't choose, he chose me. He had I believe he had a diamond ring and a mink stole and a real fancy car. And then sadly, he died. He got very sick and he had been sick. And you could see what an enormous cost there was to operating from that extreme. Now, he was a good person. He gave me a $60,000 coaching package because I helped him and he thought I had saved his life. And so it's not that he wasn't a good person. I wouldn't have agreed to work with him if he didn't have that. But he was hooked by this drive for him to just keep on expanding, and not one business and 2 businesses and 3 businesses and 5-year coaching packages and all this opulent possessions that he needed to have. And then it killed him, and it kind of killed my father. My dad wasn't quite, he wasn't the mink stole guy, but certainly very, very driven by this bottom line and that understanding that, I mean, it's true. If you go under, then everybody goes under. All your employees go under, and all your suppliers don't have that work from you or business from you. So it can be a good sense of responsibility. But if you go to the other extreme in the private, where you are 100% say everything is the gift economy, everything is, and I know that I'll get some disagreement with Jacqueline. I was hearing her speaking about this yesterday, where you end up sacrificing yourself. You end up martyring yourself, say, on again, another extreme of that sacrifice that might not be sacred. It might be, and it might not be. And you don't know sometimes until you get there. So the big point is that the abundance that would be for one person in the extreme side of the entrepreneur is in the private, in a ministry, it is to the benefit of all the members. And I've always done this anyway. Everything I've ever made, I have invested back in my work, right? I've just always done that. It's been a natural. What else am I going to do with it? I don't have any other interests. It is my whole life. I've managed to make my purpose my work. So I'm up every single night late, and then, well, what do I do now? Just lay back and melt on the couch. That actually sounds pretty good right now. But no, I'm gonna look at, and I'm gonna watch one of your interviews, and I'm gonna get more current on what you guys are up to, and I'm gonna make some notes about this interview so I feel a little bit prepared coming to it. And some people will like, oh, stop working, you're a workaholic. And it's like, no, this is my life, this is my purpose. I will do it until the moment I die.
Beautiful. I have an apropos quote real quick, Baron. I'll let you comment on this idea of going so into the private that you're just all by yourself, idea that you're kind of alluding to, right? That extreme, which of course is not what really being in the private is. Being in the private is exercising your will as you wish in society, and being able to effortlessly navigate through society as a sovereign living man or woman. But I love this quote. This is in my pal David Salmon's email every time he sends out.
Brother David.
A child that is not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth. African proverb.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
so
brilliant.
That idea, right? That sacredness, that we're all one, we're all connected, brothers and sisters. I did have a sort of a transcendental experience in Miami last weekend. It was a very spiritual one. There was a lot of quote unquote light workers. And yes, we're speaking of Ringing Cedars series right now because the Dashnaks you brought up in the chat, right? That's yeah. And we were talking, one thing Anastasia says in, I think it's book 4, is she mentions, if you really want to know if a spiritual leader or someone who's engaging in spiritual practice is actually legit or not, extrapolate what they do on a daily basis to if everybody in the world was doing that. In other words, if somebody is just meditating all day and gyrating to spirit and not actually getting their hands in the dirt or anything, and everybody in the world follow that and did that, what would the world turn into? I think that's pretty spot on when you think about it. Now, on the flip side, yes, we're a great community and everybody has a role to play. So maybe somebody's just meditating all day and doing the light work. Okay. But I do like that what Anastasia says there. It's a pretty cool way to think about things. Go ahead, Bear.
Well, it goes back to will force again, because if you're just sitting around meditating in a passive state, you are not exerting your will force. And, we really complicate things so much. I go back to my childhood because I've been around a few years now. And everything that we're describing about private memberships and all these contrivances that we go through are just the way things used to be. When I was a kid, the majority of people were independent business owners, not employees. And now the whole thing is flipped. The things that we tolerate now, as far as intrusions into our private life, would not even have been thought of, even by government actors. They wouldn't have dared go there. When you went to the bank and got a roll of coins, they were all pure silver. The community was based on old Americana Main Street. And every business had to operate with integrity. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to keep their doors open. They served the community. There was a community feeling and a cooperation and harmony that existed, not because people were trying to, that was just a way of life. And it was, a different set of morals and, things that really don't exist anymore, because we've all allowed ourselves to give our power away, go to work for somebody else. And as far as the gentleman who made the comment about being lonely if you're just completely in the private, well, being in a private sounds a whole lot better than living in a land of dead corpses, which is what the whole fictional world is about. It's literally a death cult of people who have no sense of who they are. They have no sense that they are, in fact, the only authority in their world. It never dawns on them to even ask an intruder in their life to just, the most simple question, like, excuse me, who are you? And, private is just going back to the land of the living. It's, leaving the death cult. And we really don't need legal structures or anything's we shouldn't anyway, in order to justify it, because it's just a natural state of being. And in the US, of course, the Constitution, which doesn't give us rights, but just, reiterated certain things to put a cyclone fence around the federal government so it wouldn't interfere in our lives. It was not at all ever allowed to interfere with the contracting amongst free people. And here we are, and we think we're doing all these seminars and workshops and, paperwork gurus and everything just to get back to the way things already are. So in our recent workshop that we had up here at the farm, we spent the first, couple days just reiterating not so much about the paperwork, but owning the resonance of I am, period. I am the only power acting. I am the only authority in my world. And when you own that, then the paperwork part is simple. So anyway, Beth, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely brilliant thread to pick up on, because in the legal world, it's the paper that makes things real and bona fide. In the private world, it's the people and the assembly and much more than that, the relationships among people that make it real. And that's what's going to make it stand. That's what makes it authentic, that you know them, and it's a process. Getting to know people, as you likely are aware, it can take time. And so that reality, that the not fiction side of the world is so exciting and not new. It's even funny to call it pioneering, because we've been so mind wiped. We are absolutely blind to it. It's hilarious to wake up to. I was literally jumping up and down, and I'm laughing, and they're having this opening like, ha ha, what a joke, that I didn't even clearly distinguish this, which we always are part of. So yeah, not new at all. Long history right to this moment. There's many associations. They just tend to be used for, rather than helping people, they tend to be used for, hiding their activities, or laundering money, or just simply not having to answer to the public regulations is another reason that people would do that. And the Bar Association and all kinds of political organizations are private. You'll be shocked if you go and search for the acts, the private acts in your region. I found hundreds in Manitoba that are all specific to this. So yeah, the paperwork doesn't make you a real association. But I have foundation documents regardless, and I have a very clear 4-page agreement that is a contract with my members. When you sign it, it's serious. It's not mean, but it's serious. And there's some I really thoroughly enjoyed making my agreement, because I was setting the boundary for the kind of relationships that I want to have. And then lo and behold, the people who are joining, it's like gold when I read their words and their intentions and the way they resonate and just the realness, the beauty, I don't know. It's fun for me because I get to be around my people that I never earlier in my life thought even existed. So that reality, and then working together and the ministry, you know, the one of the primary foundations of the ministry is fellowship, because this is something that we lack, and very obviously that they tried to take away from us, that we couldn't get together with our brethren to redefine the family. This is something that I've enjoyed hearing about in the Bible when Jesus was teaching and his mother and sister and brother were outside waiting for him, and someone said, "Oh, your mother, your sister, and your brother are here." And then he said, who is my mother? Who is my brother? Who is my sister? That one that works for God, or I'm paraphrasing there, but that one that does God's will, I believe, if we get back to the theme of will. These are my brothers. These are my sisters. This is my mother, my family. And many cultures in the world, I knew this from my degree in anthropology, how every kinship system around the world is different. So, you know, we might say our brother and sister, but our cousins are not our brother and sister. But in other cultures, you don't know the difference between a cousin and a brother and a sister. It's the same. And what that means is that you're going to look after your cousin the same as you look after your brother or your sister. Or you're going to trust them, or you're going to have an intimate life with them at the same level. So this redefinition of family, the symbol of the household. I was thrilled to be able to create a house, because that exactly is the definition in the private of this private domain. And it's my house, it's my living room, and I get to say who comes in, not in a tyrannical way, although that is one of my favorite things about the private domain, that it's not communism, it's not a free-for-all, it's not a socialistic, oh, everybody vote and we'll just do what you want. So it's to the benefit of all the members, but I still get to, as the founder, make all of the core decisions. I'm open to much contribution, because a ministry, like, I know for a fact I cannot single-handedly do this project. It's already way bigger than me. So I'm calling in a lot of people to assist. I've got trustees that do things for me. I've got people. There's a law guild side to the ministry, and there's my whole law team over there doing their thing very well. I'm literally just holding the ship together, and they do all the law stuff. And so once it grows out from beyond you, then it's very beautiful. Now this is amazing, because had I tried to do this in the entrepreneurial world, the more typical classic business side, I feel like it would have killed me. And that's why I've not done that. My mentor was trying to get me to go big and create all these systems, and there was just something in me. I kept saying, well, it's killing you. It's killing you. I don't think that's right for me. And then I saw it in the private, and I saw how when I started to create the ministry, I was very beautifully instructed to spend a lot of time imagining. I might not have given myself permission to do that, but it was critically important to go into the garden and just let this vision come. Oh shit! Sorry, just give me a second. Cat. At least didn't take my ear off. Good. To vision, and then this thing mushrooms in my consciousness, and it grows, it takes on a life of its own, and I start to get scared, like, oh my gosh, this is going to consume me, it's going to take over my life. And so I'm like, oh, I'm scared. Okay, so poor thing, you're scared. What would I tell a client, or what would I tell somebody I worked with in this moment? Release, deprogram, decode, all of this stuff. So I'm letting the fear go, letting the fear go, letting the fear go. Day after day, I'm letting this fear go, and going off into the wild unknown. And then I get to the bottom of the fear, and I was afraid it would take over my life one minute. The next minute, I'm like, this is going to take over my life, in excitement, in looking forward and going, wow, this is amazing. And how fortunate that I'll be able to fulfill on the big, much bigger vision that I have, that I've suppressed, but without it taking me down and out, and, bringing people into this fellowship for the sake of filling our souls, feeding our souls. There's regular fellowship meetings bi-weekly. We get together and they're beautiful, amazing, very casual. The sole purpose is getting to know each other and having some solid inspiration that we can dig into and share with each other, hear each other's voices, get to know the patterns of their energy. I read voices. I never say much about that, but I can know so much about somebody from the sound of their voice. I've always done that. When people transform, their voice changes. You can tell from moment to moment if they're evolving. You can see that healing takes place at the level of the vibration there. And so that's one of the things that we're doing in the ministry. All of my work in coaching is going over there. So I have courses in helping people work through archetypes, whether they are, I call them the primal archetypes that are the precipice. And I think we talked about the last time in detail I was on here in Alfa Vedic, but dealing with death. This is a thing. I'm a broken record, having faced my death, every day. I still do that. There's so many layers of the death cult we've been programmed with in the public. And so to let those layers go, to me, is the most productive way to move forward. It gives you energy, it gives you life, and it will give you the impetus to take action. You can't even control it, right? The thing that you felt stuck with, you had resistance about, maybe you knew you needed to do, but you couldn't do it for one reason or another. And then all of a sudden, when that programming isn't there, when the life is allowed to be free, then it has a life of its own, and it will, I'll literally jump up and out of my seat, and I'm like, oh, okay, here I go, just coming through me, whatever it is. So that's the nature of the private, to be able to grow organically. The life is favored. If there's time, I don't know what our time is like, but I would love to talk about the archetypes of the public and the private domain after just sharing a little bit more about what's happening in the ministry. So
sure,
We
absolutely.
can keep going. Don't worry about time.
Okay, fantastic. And so learning the tools of how to turn your struggles and your challenges into a door. They're not turning them into a door, but just to see they are the door to freedom. So your obstacles, as I wrote about in my book, and I think I have to credit somebody, but I'm not sure who that is, that your obstacles aren't in your way. They are the way, going through them. Learning to not turn away from discomfort, whether it's physical or it's emotional, it's mental, it's spiritual. All of that discomfort is EMF, tied up energy, blocked energy. It's creating discomfort for a good reason, not to torture you, not to make it difficult for you or give you some contrast. I'm totally not down with that. Oh, we need that terrible contrast in order to have a good experience. It's pushing you. It's saying, please, could I come to the light, on the theme of today as well? Could I please come to the light? I'm in the dark, and I'm relegated as a troublemaker. That's my only function, is to make trouble for you so I could get your attention. Now I'm personifying that. I want to be very clear. It's not other than you. It's simply your own life energy that has been invested or divested, whatever is the better word, into a hidden place inside yourself that you can't see. And you're going to feel like you don't control it. You're going to feel like it's not you, like it's some enemy, outside force causing chaos in your life. So by allowing all of that stuff to come up to your awareness, by being brave enough to look at the ugliest parts of yourself in some cases, and it's going to come. You don't have to go digging and searching and looking for that stuff. Life is going to show you where you're not in integrity, where your morals aren't where you would like them to be, where you're, the levels of honesty and truth. This is something that I'm forever refining and seeing deeper layers. It actually becomes more painful as you go along to see small breaches of integrity. There's this knife in the solar plexus. Like, oh, okay, I'm going to have to go and apologize. Like I'll just say it. I have to stream an apology to Robert Michael. I was saying something about him on a stream, and it was totally unfounded. I was literally blurring two situations, and I said something about him, and I shouldn't have. I actually don't like when people corner me to give an opinion about someone in particular, because I'm going from a lot of intuition, some facts, but in this case, a bunch of misunderstanding. I literally misunderstood what was going on in a Crow episode, and so I just ended up calling him, and we had a really good talk and talked about this, and came to a place of actually, greater relationship, which is always the potential when you own your shit. And he was so glad that I came to him. Yeah, really amazing, actually. But it was something that immediately, as soon as I saw I had done it, I had the pain. I went into the pain. The pain motivated me to get my freedom, to feel, to let that dark energy go. And then immediately I talked to him, and it resolved in 48 hours from when the pain started. And those kind of things can, historically go on, and then you have to push them underground, because you can't sustain pain in your awareness for very long. It becomes a torture to the soul. That's why we have to suppress pain, because otherwise you couldn't go on with your normal daily life. But if you train yourself through this work to unsuppress all what God is giving you, it's all God given, it's all your gifts, it's all the either, the pattern of some kind of freedom or the inversion of that pattern. But it's still the same, right? It's just turned.
And when you get in that habit, it's not an ominous task after a while. It becomes a joyous opportunity. It feels very freeing. And, it becomes, I think, more of a little daily game where, you see these shadows come up, and it's sort of a game of gotcha, and you go, and then you use your internal tools to clear it. Or if it involves somebody else, like you say, you do the same thing. And it's a very wonderful thing. It's not something that you shy away from, but you embrace completely, because you feel that, greater freedom with every single little thing that you confront in yourself, and then realize that that is not you anyway. That is, the human, which has been programmed and, deceived. And as our consciousness comes to the surface and becomes more again, a process of active will force, then you realize, well, this is what I'm here to do, is to bring greater light into all situations, especially into my own embodiment. And, it's really becomes the only game in town. And you realize your only responsibility for being here in the first place is to just become that clear conduit. And there's only one way you can do that, is to clean up your own backyard.
Beautifully said. I love that. And one of the things that has become such a touchstone is, first of all, studying the coding of, it's the death cult, the desire, the wanting, the lie of lack, that we don't have what we need, that we need to, all our life, we need to just keep on adding that which we lack. And then we're going to somehow magically come out the other side, a whole person, because we'll have all our bits and pieces, what we picked up along the way, the toothpaste, the cologne, the whatever, on a very surface side of things. But when you can flip that, then it does become a game, Bear. It does become much more fun. Now, also very humbling. I don't want to personally give the impression that I'm on a cakewalk right now. I think my work is harder than it has ever been. And this is by design, I think, because otherwise I could get so high on myself and think I'm so great and I'm better than other people because I've done all this work and I've brought so much to light and maybe accomplished some things that I set out for myself. But the work gets harder. The things to deal with are in a way bigger, but just inside here, a little bit less so out there. Luckily, I think you can minimize a lot of the damage outside by taking this on as a game, having some fun with it by like, oh, see you again. Oh, welcome. Nice to see you. Oh, you're back again? Poor thing. Are you suffering? Do you need a hug? Kind of thing, so yeah, a lot more lightness, levity, defaulting into a higher energy that to me is not the goal, but from the higher place, you can do so much more of that heavy work. You're not like down with your face on the floor and maybe in grief or fear. and then much more capacity for actual healing to take place when you're in a courageous place, or it's feeling acceptance or peace, which we consider to be a pinnacle human experience that we're given. But to me, even peace is identical to the lowest of apathy, because they are both doors to actual freedom. And peace will be a trap, like you were talking about, all of the blissed out light workers and those kind of things who want to just meditate in a cave and they think that's their job and they're doing such good for humanity. Well, it's really apathy, right? It's very, very suppressed apathy, because if they saw that and they felt the pain of that apathy, which is the worst pain ever, deadness, no feeling, no experience, nothing going on, and calling it bliss, you have to suppress that so intensely in order to just live with yourself and keep on sitting for 8 hours a day or whatever it is that you do. Lots of time to, inward turning, of course, but I dropped my meditation practice for the decoding, deprogramming, and releasing practice. And where I used to get blissed out and what I know to be dissociated, checked out, now I get high, genuinely, right? I can take exponential leaps. Again, it's not to blow my own horn, but you see the proof right in front of you. It's the same thing with, you're talking about the hydrogen machine and that kind of thing. This is not academic, what we're doing. It shouldn't be something that logically should work, or we think it's working, or some kind of thing like, you get the chemtrails and then you get sick and you see like, whoa, direct correlation here. Exactly. I'm getting these results. And that's, so this is a practical exercise life, and it needs to work. So by raising up into that higher energy, you are perfectly positioned to go back down and get, maybe it's big trauma from the childhood we all had. Sadly, even the best upbringing is completely, awful. That gives me pain big time. And so by accepting everything as a door to freedom, you start to want freedom more than you want anything, more than you want the house and the career and the kids and the money and the financial freedom. That's maybe more on the surface, but maybe you want freedom even more than you want people to love you. You want freedom more than you want to engineer and control everything around you. And you even want freedom more than you want to live and survive. Right. And that's that core where you meet yourself, and the programming says, no, you need to want survival. You need to want that. You need to chase that all day long. You need to do all of the activities that are supposedly going to support life. But if they're driven by this fear programming, then you're pulling death in. This is what I discovered. I was doing all the best things for myself as a dying person. It was pulling death in because of that core program that was calling the death in. Once you see it, once you recognize it, then you have a new choice. Then your free will becomes apparent to you. Before the free will, it's suppressed. You don't see it. It's like it's not there. It's like decisions are being made for you. It's like your programming is calling all the shots, giving all of the instructions, and you're just like, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. Run here, run there, whatever you can, need to do. And so by this flip where you turn into, again, the theme of the private, the responsible one, and, oh, well, I will take care of this. I have been given and imbued this free will of choice. Now I can choose a different thing rather than to listen and take instructions from programming. I will step into this role of the boss. I'm going to give the instructions. And instructions can be simple permission to move. Oh, you stuck energy, poor thing, as if, again, separate from you, not. You're welcome to move. And then immediately it listens to you. Why does it listen to you? Because all of creation is here for us. It's the gift that we're given. So no wonder, right? You encourage the watermelon plant to go a certain direction, and it does. And it's the same with the inner life, that you want things to grow in a certain way because you've been wired in a certain way. And then so the amount of control you have over your inner life, this is something that I feel so passionate about imbuing to others who are brave enough. Not everybody's brave enough to just feel. And there's so many bad feelings, or feelings are weaponized against us. Never mind at the level of the spirit and the abuse that has been enacted on us. That's way bigger than emotional and physical abuse, spiritual abuse. And so these are tried and true tools. They just work. When people come and they want their freedom and they're willing to take on the game of it, then that's something that I'm so passionate about, as you can tell. I'm also training coaches. If you guys don't mind me saying, I've got a training the classes for 7 months start next week, Wednesday. And we're almost full, but there's a couple of spots open. So if anybody is feeling the calling to not only do their own healing work, but also to help others, then put up your hand, email me from my website, or I'll just give you my email, beth@bethmartens.com. I don't think it's a big deal to say that. And so I'm very happy to help others. And they take the biggest risks of all. These are the brave ones. You should have seen, we had a little bit of a meeting the other day, and you can see how scary it is for them. They know they're going to meet themselves. I've been in that situation many times. I have a lot of compassion for that, and cheering up and down. They're just like awesome, beautiful souls. And
I think that's one of the most important things you're doing, and that what we try to do is we try to inspire people to realize that they need to be free, because I think that's really what we're up against, more than the act of initiating your freedom, but is reminding a lot of men and women out there that, you know, you actually want to be free, because most actually out there don't even want to be free. They're very happy giving away their freedom for convenience. And that's due to how we started this like nihilism, right? That has been is literally the real virus that has taken over the world. And people are happy and content to not actually be a living man or woman, to be that corpse. And so when we can inspire them that life is an adventure and you should embrace every moment, and that there's so much more magic in the world, and you can truly engage in happiness that isn't hedonism, happiness through serving, which is where you really get the true fulfillment. I've seen it happen. I've seen people's lives change, and like through Music in Sky, where they've woken up to this and they're a completely different person. You're right. Their voice is different. Their attitude, their life, they move, they like live in a totally different reality. So I think that's so important, Beth, is what you're doing, is we're literally inspiring people to wake up that we should be free, and that there's much more to life than what is given to us in the general public in the corpse world. So I just wanted to thank you for this ministry and what you're doing. And yes, I would love to also kind of go into the archetype stuff and all that as well, because I think that's a higher understanding of how we're each unique in the way that we express our freedom.
Beautiful. Yeah. Oh my gosh, there's just so much in there. The beauty is, I want to comfort people, at least, because, you know, if you don't feel that desire for freedom, all it means is that there's stuff sitting on top of there. So we are installed. That is probably our most core freedom our most core programming, or encoding by God. I know we get into some semantic word problems here, or I do anyway. So freedom is already there, and all the doors to freedom are installed. You don't lack anything that you need for freedom, and then the practice of wanting it. Because if you want anything else, it's a trap. And this was something I wanted to say about will, that I had just realized for myself. I would always impose on God or Creator, however you frame that God wants us to be happy. God wants us to have what we want. God wants us to this and that. I always catch myself in that God wants thing, and there's something not right about it. And I finally saw how or at least framed for myself, that the awakened side of wanting is willing. And so you can trade that wanting for the will by letting the wanting go. You can't bring in the will. That already is. That's hardwired. That's the force of life itself that wills to grow, that wills to create, that wills to thrive and be fully alive in the world. And then to tap into the nature of that wanting, but if you want freedom, then it's your ticket home. It's kind of like a trump card, or I guess people don't say that Trump thing anymore. But it will take you home. If you hammer on that desire for freedom, you remind yourself over and over and over again that you want freedom, then all kinds of things can naturally come into play around it. And so, yeah, if we jump off and talk about the archetypes of the public and the private, this was a beautiful revelation that I had with Jacqueline Milne over many hours of conversations. Like we got on the phone sometimes night after night after night, and we're just comparing notes and seeing how she found patterns and I found the same patterns from completely different sides. And so in nature, so we're familiar with the public and the private domain to some extent, although of course the private has been mangled as a concept. So we have words for private that don't mean private at all. Like we're talking about, just say like a private site, Patreon or something where the public can't go, that we think that's private. And we've been taught to, our privacy has been weaponized against us so that, we're hiding from, we think, the beast with screen names and a different name on every platform and, different emails and trying to slip around the beast. Well, I just want to break it to you guys that you're not getting past the beast. That ain't working. They know who you are. They know how to find you if they want to, connect all the dots. They know it's you, but we're hiding from each other. And the message of unification, this is also very key inside the archetype of the private and the public, that I'm actually going to come back to that. So let me focus. Too many exciting thoughts at one time, you guys. So when you look out into this system that we've got, you've got that public, they've turned into a predator. Right. So the public energy all by itself, like archetypes there's never a wrong archetype. There's either an awakened expression of the archetype or there's an unawakened expression of the archetype that might actually be interacting with what I know to be evil forces. Hidden is not evil. Hidden is innocent, but it interacts very easily with evil. And I feel like that's exactly what we're dealing with in the public right now. You look out into nature, and if the predators become too numerous, they're allowed to thrive for one reason or another, they kill off all the prey and they destroy the ecosystem that depends on them. So I know you guys know this. And it works the other way around. If you destroy the predators, I know, men have tried that many times to take out all the coyotes or all the wolves or all that. And then guess what? The prey become predator on the land. Right. So there's a certain installed state of affairs in nature that you can observe at many, many levels. So this predator and the prey, it is the public and the private. It is also the left brain and the right brain. And then lo and behold, the masculine and the feminine.
And right? It's really about balance, because as Marcia Ann said so fittingly in our I Am the Living Law course, resistance is persistence. The more you resist, the more it will persist. So the coyote is a great example. They've tried to kill off the coyote. The coyote is inherently coded to procreate more and more and more, the more it feels threatened. So the more you try to kill it off, the more pups it has in the litter. So that's a great example of when you try to fight and rail against the system and take out the balance, nature will always rebalance, right? It's one of the universal laws, right? So everything within balance, but keep going. I just wanted to add to that beautiful point you made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you absolutely have it. So I was caught in it my whole life, hating the public, hating the system, hating the beast, hating this. And to me, that's a psyop by design, because if we manage to take out the public, oh boy, we're going back to caveman days. And not very many people are going to survive that. So, and it won't be pleasant. I don't think. I kind of like our world. I actually like our world now more and more. I don't like how it's being operated, but imagine if we could have, all of this technology and travel and infrastructure, water systems and electricity and internet and all that kind of thing. And that it would all be used for the good and betterment of people. Like that would just be miraculous.
Well,
so that's my dream.
Even the IRS could have a use. They are a bookkeeping, accounting organization. And if they were re-relegated to their original purpose, which is to track their own employees, which are our public servants, then the public servants wouldn't be able to get away with the corruption and be used the way they're used as a weapon against the rest of us. So it's just that, we have to get everybody back in their lanes. And in America, anyway, we had House Joint Resolution 192 when they took us off the gold standard in 35. And it actually put us in a very nice accounting system of a prepaid status. And as the living sentient beings that, are the engine of society, our needs were met very well, not in a communistic way. But then, of course, that original system had to be buried and then turned against us. So, the public just needs to be, brought back into its original purpose. And then, of course, the biggie here is we have the right to engage in the public in any level or not that we choose. And, the big difference, you're describing your organization where you're at the helm of your own private membership. Well, that's great because your members have the ability to leave anytime they want. But what they've contrived in the public now is a system where you're not allowed to leave. So big difference.
Yeah. Can I mention one more thing? I talk a lot about this with Cordal, which I know, Beth, you're aware of. You've had me on your show to talk about decentralization. And it's a great example of having the balance between the public and the private, because in that, and Bear's so right, it's about freedom of choice, right? Like you should be able to have the public square, the place where the commons, right? Where everybody can enjoy the common, whatever it be. So with Cordal, it's based on the public idea of everyone's validating in a transparent system. So everybody's validating the truth. However, then everybody is free to be private and transact with that with encryption. So nobody can read your stuff. Nobody can know where your money's going. However, the public is the security of it all, because the public is making sure there's no shenanigans going on the ledger. So it's a beautiful representation of this balance between the private domain and the public domain based on freedom. So I love it. I love it. Continue, Beth.
You guys were so way ahead of the curve with Cordal. I was not rethinking, but just thinking about it again last night. And it kind of sounds like I might be over there in your living room in that Cordal space.
We need to get your website up on Cordal. We've been hosting websites now for free for a while. So let's get your website up. And I actually bought really high grade colloidal silver with Court last week. So commerce is happening. And, but yeah, anyways, didn't want to get too sidetracked, but my point is it's happening. Like there are people out there making this work now. So it's beautiful.
It really is. Yeah. Amazing. And, oh darn, where was I going to go with
well, you were talking about the archetype of private versus public and these other archetypes and the balancing of them. And
that's it. And the awakening and I think, I've always struggled with the thing of balance. You might have heard me say some years ago, like balance is bullshit and this kind of thing. What I've noticed is that those two forces, especially as I've studied them as the masculine feminine, that they work so organically together. They're really cooperating with each other. There's a lot of polarization between them, and there's a lot of drama, say in nature, where you get the violence of the bunny being caught by the cat, and it might seem like there's something wrong going on there, but I know this audience is way beyond that. But to see how there is a natural flow of masculine and feminine energy, at one time you're like just coming out and producing and creating and manifesting, and then there's a pullback, right? That there's the wave comes and the wave goes back, and then there's some hopefully time for reflection and just assessing what is going on so that you're not doing everything out of knee-jerk reactions. And then that's going to bring the life forward again into a much more, what we would maybe see as aggressive or assertive kind of a way to be. So yeah, they absolutely both have their place. They don't need a whole lot of engineering. Again, it's a matter of releasing. Say somebody's really, intensely strong in that prey energy to the degree that they are a victim and they're laying on the back and like, eviscerate me, showing their belly, getting virtue signaling that I'm a victim and everybody should come and give me pity, energy, fake pseudo attention and love, to that point where you're like, okay, yeah, there's times to be a bunny. I don't mind being a bunny. I don't mind appearing like a bunny sometimes too, because if they don't know me, then I also can be accessing this predator energy. And frankly, people in the truth community, this is something that I really discovered. We have way more predator energy than those, say, masked and jabbed people out there. They're too much on the bunny. They're waiting for someone to come along and tell them how to be safe. And they're, it's Stockholm syndrome, all the stuff, and we've talked about here. So it is to our credit to hold predator energy. It's what will allow you to say, stand up for yourself when you get crushed, or when someone around you gets crushed, or to, if absolute need be, to use the court system to go and hold judges and lawyers accountable, or other predators accountable, all of that kind of stuff. So, it's a very much more balanced perspective. Now, the enemy is not out there, because otherwise the enemy would be in here. So you can flip it and know that all of the allies, everything that basic public and private, once you see those archetypes, you'll see them everywhere in Technicolor. And they're extremely useful to just see, okay, what's being used here and how is the expression of it? Is it either giving and supporting life, or is it taking the life away, draining the life? Because that's, for the most part, people who get into real predator kind of energy, they are losing. They're going to be caught up in the lust, the anger, the pride, even courage, acceptance, and peace, and not get to the actual freedom part. So all of that, our operating in the public, our operating in the private, it is out of free will. There's many people, I have to divest completely of my public. I have to get rid of my birth certificate. I have to give away my driver's license or burn my business license, all of that kind of thing, which I would be fun. I think that would be fun, but it's really not true. It's just to awaken both of those capacities that we've been given. They're, again, both doors to freedom. Don't cut yourself off and have some illusion that by divesting of the public, you are going to be safe in the private. It's not like that. You actually have to do the work to what it takes to build out the associations and the relationships and the convivial nature of life that could be the cooperating around life. So just giving up your birth certificate is not going to protect you at all. I really firmly see and believe that now. But to walk strategically in that realm, knowing you're dealing with a predator class, and not to be naive, not to be a bunny, not to, to understand what are your actual rights, what are your freedoms, what are the difference between the rights and the freedoms, what are you unconsciously consenting to inside yourself that you're also unconsciously consenting to outside yourself. Almost always when you decide that you're not going to take it, say be discompassionate or abusive to yourself, you also resolve to not let other people do that. I've seen that many, many times. So yeah, those two archetypes, extremely interesting. There's no end to it. I've been excited to find it in the Bible and look at, there's actually so much instruction about the private in the Bible. There was one section in particular I pulled out, 1 Corinthians 12, 4 and 14, talking about the diversity of gifts and the one spirit. So this is a little bit now just going deep into the private and seeing how it does require all of our different kinds, all of our different skills, all of our different interests, those that are So men naturally will bring predator energy. I want that. That's why I host the King Heroes Journey podcast, and I'm always wanting to highlight strong men such as yourselves out there and bring that element forward. It's very needed. It doesn't come as naturally to me. I came as a woman, although I can be a good killer too. Especially if you threaten me or my bear cub. But the ability to come together and be a true body, right? That's what the assembly is, to be a body where we can work together and support life, to choose life, to consciously choose life, because we've been unconsciously choosing death. And in another place in the Bible, God says, I place life and death before you. Choose life. And so this is something that we can do for each other. We can support each other. We can encourage each other. We can have the exchange that will, the colloidal silver or the milk or the meat that they're trying to kill so fast. And although I might be talking to vegetarians, so I apologize for that. But, meeting our needs, this is something that it's so fun. We can do it. And it can be done in the private, but with, it's basically just humbling the predator, right? Bringing that, maybe it's your side of yourself that is arrogant and superior and feels righteous in bringing harm to others, no matter how right that may seem. But humbling that part of yourself, seeing yourself going like, oh, wow, kill energy. Not really my vision of who I want to be and how I want to interact in the world, or the effect that I want to scare people. Been scary. And so bringing yourself to that place of the humbling, which probably is exactly that balance between those two as they move so naturally with each other. They dance, right? When you take the tension out and you take the conflict out, you take the opposition out. There's no actual opposition. They have been pitted against each other artificially. So that's probably what I want to share.
And that might bring us full circle to the right use of will. And, will force is not passive. It's not violent, although if you have to assert your will very strongly, people that are not used to that might take it as an act of violence. Because it's just basically, you mentioned wants. Well, wants have nothing to do with the fulfillment. A will is automatically implied that it's fulfilled. And so two different things. And I think what we really don't appreciate is that will force is just a polarity, as we were talking about earlier. And it's built into our physiology. It's built into all form in our realm, including ourselves. So if you look at that male polarity, as we're talking about, as far as the mental plane, well, that's has to do with our neurology. Our neurology is, that particular polarity that works on the mental plane, brings into form, but it's not the fulfillment. The will is the fulfillment. If you go into old alchemical understandings where you have the three attributes of mind, body, spirit, or sulfur, mercury, salt, it's, again, those are the attributes that make up all three kingdoms in nature, including our own bodies. So if you look at the neurology as that one polarity, then our metabolism as more the feminine that emanates from the astral, which is where feeling comes from. That is, in fact, where our will force emanates. And then if you look at the physical body, you look at the metabolic processes and neurological processes, but then you have the limbs that are out here, just freely movable. Well, that will force is what animates us animates our vehicles through this realm to, have the experience we're doing. So that is the Mercury, that is the spirit. The freedom part, that's what freedom is. And freedom is the exertion of that will force. But without the will force having the feeling, the mana, the juice behind it, then we have just, the salt polarity, which is just empty forms, thought bubbles. And martial arts, it's no ability to fight. It's just all form. So, will force is so important to understand, that it's actually a physical polarity. It's actually, makes up the triad that allows the Mercury element, that gives us the freedom to roam, to create, to do as we will within this realm. So everything you're talking about, the archetypes and everything else, what we have here is a failure to exert our will force, as far as, I can tell. And even in the case of the physical body, when that will force is not mobilized, then that normal force gets stuck in the lower plane. That's where we get growths in our body. That's where it gives rise to the collective miasms that are the origins, the energetic origins of what we think of as disease on the human plane. So it's just such an important thing, I think, to wrap our minds around. And as you're very well describing today, all of these actions of the so-called predator class are mobilizing, helping us, or inspiring us to mobilize that will force. So I think it's the best of times that we're moving into here.
Amen. Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. That's beautiful. Yeah.
Wow. We're coming up on time here, Beth. Any final remarks or anything you'd want to close out on to our community listening today? And the chat's been in fuego today, by the way, guys. People have really been inspired and loving this talk.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'm not good at watching a chat while I'm trying to talk, so I'm going to go back and enjoy those comments. So thank you for everyone who's here. And yeah, I think we covered it. Maybe just a little bit about how in the ministry, I also do have the Law Guild as well as my coaching guild. And so it's an opportunity to come in. There's a number of workshops that I've already done. That's why I got going sooner than I expected to. I've hosted Amanda Ridding for 2 workshops, one on just how to deal with tickets, very, kind of normal, ongoing things. We're getting $9,000 tickets to come back into the country without an app. So it's just a stupid situation, ties people up a little bit. And a workshop on contract law. There's going to be a second part with her on that. Brett Fountain came and did a workshop for us. Gosh, what was that about? I'll have to remember. You can go to my channels and find out, or ask me. Darn. Oh yeah, bar grievances. I knew it was good. Yeah, how to do bar grievances, which is something that stop those predators in their tracks. And then I don't know if you're familiar with Brandon Sibley, Big Sib. So he came and did a workshop that might end up being a series of some kind on role playing in court. There wasn't a whole lot of like super heavy hitters that already had court cases. I'm having a hard time. I'm actually building for them, but they're so tied up in their cases that they don't have any time whatsoever for learning or certainly not personal development. That's my secret hidden agenda that I just shared with you. If I could get behind somebody who was already so powerful and show them how to even raise their energy more, how to do the deeper healing work, and to be able to create with more ease and less effort, then that is something I feel really excited about. And so I think that's pretty much it. It's as I mentioned, if anybody's interested to apply to become a member, they are most welcome to do that. If you visit the in the show notes, the freewillministry.live, I call it .live, not .live, took advantage of that life force element there. Then you're most welcome. I know and I love a lot of people already in your community. There's been great overlap and connection from having you guys onto my show. Definitely go and watch those interviews, by the way. I'll have to have you guys back on, maybe get an update on the Cordal situation as well. And possibly, Bear, you might be coming to do a workshop in the House of Free Will. I didn't confirm it with you.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if we're still on for that. Okay, fantastic. Yeah, I think we put out the 28th as a possibility, and we're going to look at violet ray projection, which I found so fun. From the last interview that you did with me. You touched on that, and I thought it would make a beautiful workshop. People do not see their creative power, and that would be a way to do that. So yeah, there's also the chance to do apprenticeships to work with people, not just myself to do the thing that I do, but this to me is the way that we're going to pass on our knowledge. It is I've come to see it as a sin to die with your knowledge in you. right? If you don't pass that on, that's missing out on that last leg of the hero's journey where you turn around and give back. So apprenticeships are very welcome. Free exchange, the contract that you sign with the House of Free Will means that you can exchange freely outside of the public system with each other. I do not regulate that. I don't tell people how to do those exchanges, or, nothing goes through me. I don't take anything from it. I am asking for a small donation to join the House of Free Will, but at the same time, I know that times are intense right now, and if people can't afford a small donation, just shoot me a note and let me know, and you're most welcome as a member regardless. So I hope you guys join. If you feel to, it's very humbling. It's just like you said earlier, that if I don't do good in this by people, then they just simply won't be there. There's no obligation for them to stay whatsoever, right? The contract doesn't bind them into the contract. They can cancel it at any moment. I can also cancel the contract if for some reason they're not acting in accordance with, self-responsibility, and no members can turn around and sue each other based on activities that are taking place in the ministry. You are signing away your ability to do that. Any conflicts are handled by tribunals. I don't anticipate them, to tell you the truth, because I've just attracted such self-responsible people in the first place. So that's really beautiful. And then contributions, because I really do see this as a way for others to fulfill their sacred purpose through my association. If they don't have the wherewithal to create their own assembly, or put themselves out there independently, which can be really hard to do, and these days can be harder to do, then you can do that in the ministry. If you have something of value, you want to bring it forward, you want to teach it, do a workshop on it, gain your own connections within it. This is a huge privilege and joy for me to be able to provide that opportunity. And then, anybody who wants to contribute to the ministry, I'm very open to any kind of volunteer activities. I've got two assistants working a lot for me these days. There's a lot of jobs and a lot of work, but it's all absolutely on purpose. You said it earlier, Mike, maybe just to cap this off, that this is not a hedonistic thing, even though, like in my book, I have a whole chapter on the hedonist. I love the hedonist, but that awakened side of it is very different. And it's tapping into exactly what you said. It is the deep, incredible, like stunning pleasure of purpose. The long term, right? Like not just the short term satisfaction and, filling your face and your senses and getting what you want, and always like bowing to your wants and becoming the slave of your wants. Then you flip it and you want purpose. And it is an incredibly pleasurable life to be connected that way. So to me, that's the best kind of hedonist pursuit that you can make.
Marvelous. So, God, so great to have you here again, and really enjoyed the conversation. And I look forward to being with you soon, I guess on the 28th. So maybe you and I can get together and we can discuss beforehand what you'd like to do there. But I look forward to it greatly, and just keep up your amazing work. The audience loved you here today. So thanks again.
Thank you so much for having me, both of you. It's been an honor and a pleasure.
Thanks so much, Beth. As always, I look forward to diving into your site here, House of Free Will. I'm looking at it now, and I will clean up the links in the show notes below so they're all clickable, so you guys can view those. And please go support Beth and her ministry and all her work. Check out her podcasts. And the best place to find you, are you on Telegram, or what's the best place to connect with you, Beth, besides the website?
Yeah, there's the King Hero chat on Telegram. I'm debating about doing a House of Free Will Telegram. There's just so many groups, because I've got private forums inside the House of Free Will website, so that people can meet without any social media whatsoever. But yeah, I'm on Telegram. I'm on Facebook. I was just removed from Instagram for some reason. I didn't barely even have so much happening there, but last I saw, they had taken me down. I got a big strike on YouTube, as I mentioned earlier. So I'm down there just for a week. I believe I was free of strikes at that moment when they dinged me. So I should be back. I'm on Rockfin, and then I think that's all the channels that I do really prefer, by the way, that if you come to my website and sign up, say for the King Hero archetype quiz or the Merpreneur archetype quiz, which is a little bit of a throwback to my mermaid days, but either one of those gets us in contact by email, and then we won't be dependent on other people's platforms to stay connected. So that's always the best thing to do. That if you go and just go to bethmartens.com or freewillministry.live, which actually are the same, that the free will is just pointing towards there, you'll find the application to the House of Free Will and some things that you might be interested in. If you don't mind me repeating, if you are the one who is ready to really deep dive into your own healing work and to, defrag, decode, and release the beast from your system, and you're looking for a way to, say, transition out of a slave job, or to maybe have a life's work that is not as controllable, because that's one thing that I have a lot of healthy pride around it, that no one tells me what to do in my work. Nothing. No one showed up for the last 2 years to tell me how to run my work, where to, host people, or how to host them, or anything like that. So I invite you to have a conversation with me. I'd like to talk to all the people that you can. Just sign up for that one. But the coaching, it's called Journey Code, giving you that indication how you can decode this system. Incredibly simple. It simplifies things that seem so complex and unapproachable and intimidating. Things are simple. They've been made simple for us, and we can crack this, and we can do this. So just let me know.
Beautiful. Love it all. Thanks so
Awesome.
much, Beth. And if you guys resonated with this, please give us a thumbs up, share with your friends and family. It really helps spread this information far and wide. And as always, remember to get outside, get your feet in the dirt, go plant something, go for a hike. Mother Nature is our best teacher. Show her some love, you guys. We'll see you next week at our regular scheduled time. Love you all. Bye.
Thanks so much.